is the concept that there is a right way of living in terms of religion and action. In Buddhism particularly, a person is trying to achieve the goal of spiritual purity and an understanding of life that enables them to be free from the pains and difficulties of human existence. The religion itself emphasizes peace, non-discrimination, an attempt to escape from suffering, and the ultimate goal of achieving enlightenment. Any person can become a Buddhist, even if they concurrently observe any other form of religion, organized or otherwise. Buddhism is not only a religion, but a way of thinking, a combination of several schools of philosophy, and a wealth of historical knowledge and ideas amassed over centuries of teaching and learning by its devotees. Originally founded in India, the religion has an estimated following of approximately 360 million Buddhists worldwide. If this is a close estimate, it would mean that somewhere near 6% of the world's population consider themselves to be Buddhist. This does not take into account those who follow another religion, but it does place Buddhism as the fourth most prevalent religion after Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. To give some idea of the spread of these religions, consider that, in comparison, over 2 billion people worldwide adhere to some form of Christianity, and there are less than 15 million members of any sect of Judaism. Buddhism was founded on the teachings of a man named Siddhartha Gautama, or more commonly, the Buddha. It was built upon with the further teachings and ideas of other wise and enlightened people that came after him. A Buddha is any person who has, within the guidelines of the Buddhist doctrine, become enlightened or awakened. The Buddhist word for enlightenment is bodhi, which means to awaken. The word Buddha came from that root word. A person who is awakened from their inherent state of human ignorance into the enlightened state known as nirvana will have freed themselves from the karma-based and otherwise endless cycle of rebirths that Buddhists believe they are part of. Enlightenment must either come to a person in a random flash, which could be at any time of life and in any place, or must be attained through arduous learning and following of all of the tenets of Buddhism. The beginning of this path is to learn the Gautama Buddha's 4 Noble Truths. The first of these truths is known as the diagnosis, that the condition of all existence is suffering. The second is cause, that suffering is caused by selfishness, desire, and craving. The third is the prognosis, that selfishness, desire, and craving can be overcome, and that suffering will end on earth, and the cycle of the curse of reincarnation will be gone. The fourth is known as the Eightfold Path. After going through the first 3 of these noble truths, the person must follow the Eightfold Path, which leads to enlightenment. The Eightfold Path is, as the name implies, made up of 8 separate steps and is divided into 3 main sections. The first section is wisdom, which contains the first and second steps of right view and right intention. The second is titled ethical conduct, with the third through 5th steps of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. The final section, mental discipline, is the remaining 3 steps, which are right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. 2 important things to remember when learning about Buddhism are the dual concepts of dharma and karma. These are 2 different ideas which help to make up the structure by which Buddhists live their lives and attempt to achieve nirvana. Dharma is the right way of living or proper conduct. The law of karma states that for every event that occurs, there will follow another event whose existence was caused by the first, and the second event will be pleasant or unpleasant according as its cause was skillful or unskillful. This concept has traveled outside of its original Buddhist boundaries to the mainstream. The golden rule that is taught to many children today teaches them to treat others as they wish to be treated. Although this idea relies on the compliance of others, it also follows that if a person acts well, they will be rewarded with good acts upon them. When applied to the lives of Buddhists, the concept of karma helps to keep them on their correct path, because they believe that if they do good in one life, they will be rewarded in their next incarnation. The cycle of samsara, birth, death, and rebirth, cannot be ended or escaped until the person reaches their nirvana or enlightened state and is freed. The followers of Buddhism live by studying sutras and Vedas. Sutras are discourses designed to illustrate points of doctrine or to explain the origin of some of the rules of the religion. The literal translation of the word sutra is a rope or thread that holds things together. This makes sense because the weaving of sutras throughout Buddhism create the framework for study. The sutras together make up a school of Vedic study. Vedas are the scriptures of Buddhism. They are texts written from oral tradition and are held to be the true word of the Gautama Buddha. One of the three schools of Buddhism is Mahayana. The other two main schools are Theravada and Vajrayana. The school of Mahayana is not just one way of thinking. It developed into a separate school from the others by including different ideas and sutras into its texts and teachings. It is a collection of Buddhist traditions, Zen Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism, and Tibetan Buddhism. The Buddhist word Mahayana translates as great vehicle, which is a reference to the fact that it is supposed to be a mode of traveling toward a goal of inner peace and enlightenment. One of the most important teachings of Mahayana is the Bodhisattva, the enlightenment being. It is the aspiration of Mahayana Buddhists to follow the path of the Bodhisattva, to reach enlightenment, and to have a positive impact on the world around them. The Bodhisattva vow is, however innumerable sentient beings are, I vow to save them. However inexhaustible the defilements are, I vow to extinguish them. However immeasurable the dharmas are, I vow to master them. However incomparable enlightenment is, I vow to attain it. The Bodhisattva path is one of selflessness and the hope to free any living being from suffering. Mahayana Buddhism is learned through following the sutras, the teachings of the Buddha. There are estimated to be over 2,000 of these sutras, but they are not all formally gathered into one form of teaching volume. One of the most important and well-read of these is the Vimalakirti Nirdesa Sutra. It is one of the most influential of all the Mahayana sutras. It was estimated to have originally been written sometime around the year 100 CE, although the earliest known translation into Chinese was in 188 CE. It was most likely written in Sanskrit at first, as passed from the original oral story. Although all of the sutras originated in spoken words and stories, and relied on oral tradition to pass them on, once they were written down and then translated into a language which could be understood by the masses, they could live on forever and be easily taught to new Buddhists or to those who simply wish to learn more about the religion they already followed. The Vimalakirti Nirdesa Sutra is known for covering many of the tenets of Mahayana Buddhism and for being both lively and humorous. The sutra is very unique in that, unlike many of the other sutras, particularly the important and well-known ones, it was not written about any particular Buddha. Instead, it was written about a man named Vimalakirti. He was a wealthy man, and it seems that because of his status as a layperson, this sutra particularly reaches out to those people who may not feel very spiritually close to the status of the Buddhas. It is said that Vimalakirti had, through following the Buddha way, or the Four Noble Truths, gained transcendental powers and had become good beyond measure, giving religious dues to the Buddhas and gaining respect of everyone who knew him and of the Buddhas. The sutra is also known as the Renowned for Purity Sutra. In the beginning of the sutra, Vimalakirti's many virtues are extolled, including but not limited to his generosity and the thoroughness with which he had adhered to and respected all Buddhist laws and traditions. Even the greatest disciples of Buddhism feared his criticism because of his superior level of achievement in purifying himself and in leading a perfect Buddhist life. Vimalakirti was a great benefactor to his village and was pure and wise. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, it says that a person has become a bodhisattva when he feels no anguish and is without the defilement of sin, ignorance, and arrogance. Vimalakirti talks about the necessity of a man living his life as though he experiences and acts upon anger, ignorance, greed, and all of the other known negative traits, while in actuality he practices just the opposite. Being as that he was known for being great but deeply humble, it is likely that the reason Vimalakirti advises that a man should hide his perfect adherence to Buddhism is so as not to seem like he is gloating over anyone else. If others are able to feel that they are still somehow near the same level as him or as someone like him, they will not be afraid to learn from him and to try to reach the same point they are at. They already know, however, that the person has reached nirvana and will, after their current incarnation, escape the cycle of samsara and will have completed their Buddhist mission. The student might be too intimidated to try to emulate or become close to the teacher. This sutra also focuses on the concept of non-duality. The Bodhisattvas define this as being the result of the attainment of the tolerance of the birthlessness of things, and say that the absence of presumption is the entrance into non-duality. All of Vimalakirti's words are aimed toward selflessness.